This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
If your fashion wish list lives rent-free in your brain, you need to be on Poshmark. With Poshmark, you're shopping millions of listings from thousands of closets, each curated by someone with their own style. Vintage finds, designer pieces, and everyday staples all in one place. Search for your favorites or let the discovery come to you. Poshmark makes it easy to find what you actually want to wear at prices that feel like a quiet win. Download the Poshmark app today and use code PODCAST10 when you sign up to get $10 off your first purchase.
And, I think that so many people think about friendship and they think they have so many friends. And if you're on Facebook, you look at your friend list and it's really super inflated. You have tons of friends on there. And
you know what I would say is, if you really want to test how many friends you have on Facebook, just put out like a mass email. A mass message and say, "Hey, can I borrow $100?"
Or talk about how you're having a difficult time. I used to have a great analogy, and just envision that you're talking with your friend, or you're talking to somebody about dogs. And you're having this great conversation about your love for dogs and how furry they are and how their breath stinks and they love cookies and they're wagging tails and all that. And this goes on, you're having a great conversation. But as you go deeper and deeper into the conversation and you start asking this person questions, you discover that, you're really talking about two different animals. You're talking about a German Shepherd, and the other person's talking about, a Chihuahua or a Pickapacapoo, just because it's fun to say. But, it's really, and I think this happens in many different aspects of our life, is that we use these generic terms like friend, and it means something different to each and every one of us. I think the same thing holds true for chili. My wife comes from Ohio, and she likes the Cincinnati chili, which has chocolate and cinnamon in it and no beans. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me. That's not chili to me. Chili is Texas style, with beans and meats and, tomato sauce. And it's just, it's a different animal. It's a different food. So today we wanted to talk about friendship and what friendship really means, and maybe go into a little bit about why it's fashionable. People like to have friends, right, Tom? What's wrong with having lots of friends?
No, absolutely. But you can probably count your true good friends on one hand, correct? Because it's hard to friendships are work, and they take time. So in order to have a bunch of different friends, it's kind of impossible, because it's really difficult to get to that level of understanding of someone. It's just like you can't have, it'd be difficult if you had multiple spouses, right? It's
God, yes.
Yeah. So
I can barely handle
everyone thinks, oh, that'd be awesome. But, you see these, there was a show once about the Mormon guy that had a bunch of wives, and, it wasn't fun and games for him. He always had, some kind of problem, and, it's hard to be able to get that intimate with that many people.
And I think that's a great story we can draw on, Tom, because it's a great example. So everyone thinks that it's great, you have multiple wives, and, that kind of sounds intriguing, I guess, to some people. I don't necessarily I don't want more than one wife, but, there's aspects of it which sound pretty good. 5 women. On the surface, that sounds great, but the reality is that each one of those relationships stands on its own. And if you can't devote yourself 100% to that relationship, that guy needs to spread himself out amongst 5 women.
Right. And you can't treat it like objects, because I think that's what first happens to people when they think about it, they go, "Ooh, 5 women, man! I'm going to have a party." But yeah, it's not going to happen like that.
Big
And the same
pillow fights every night.
right? And the same goes with friends. Sometimes, if you ever noticed, like especially when you're a kid, think back like when you had like a third person, and sometimes one person would feel like the third wheel because two other friends would kind of like hang out closer, or and
Dynamics.
yeah. So it's really hard to be for the group friendship. It's fine getting together and a thing, but you need that one-on-one time to kind of to get to know each other.
Yeah, it's the dynamics is pretty interesting. I have teenage daughters, and actually, that Anna's only 9, so she's not a teenager yet. But they have sleepovers, and Anna's birthday's coming up in May, and she's talking about having a sleepover and how she's going to have all these girls coming over, and she's mentioning who they are. And I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, man, this is just trouble. This is just, these girls are going to be, what you have to be so careful with these group dynamics. If it's interesting, like if I remember back when you and I were kids, Tom, we're best friends growing up, grew up on the same block, but you throw some other kid into the mix, and boy, it just changes.
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of times that we were enemies. We couldn't stand each other, and a lot of it had to do with the other kids we were hanging out influencing us. I remember doing lawn jobs on your house, and with some other kid or something, and you coming out and yelling at me and chasing us, and that kind of stuff.
It only took me 30 years to finally get you to admit that, bastard. But we're going to talk about this later, sir. I'm just kidding. I think this is great because it really is key to our message here. And what is friendship? What does that mean? Tommy and I have known each other since we were little kids. We open up our show talking about how we're lifelong childhood friends, and now it comes out, they were enemies. But it's true. I mean, there were times where we were really mad at each other.
I just was thinking that there's probably some people that don't know what a lawn job is, so I should probably explain that. In South Florida, we have these like nice grass swales. There's like a sidewalk where we grew up, and so there's your house.
You grew up on a sidewalk?
The grass area, the sidewalk, and then you have a swale. Right, the swale is really technically not your property; it belongs to the city. However, it's you have nice grass on it, and one of the popular things when we were in high school was especially when you got your first car, was to drive onto someone's yard and hit the gas real fast and accelerate, and it burns up that whole swale and leaves big tire marks. So it was a way of like burning people, and that was one of our fun things to do to people that maybe you didn't like or whatever, and that's why John would be a little disturbed that I gave him lawn jobs.
Yeah, that didn't happen too often, but I mean, they leave a lasting scar, Tom.
Yes.
So totally got sidetracked.
Sorry,
derailed from the lawn jobs and what that means to people and how that has to deal with friendship. I guess what it actually is saying is that friendships can survive lawn jobs. Friendships can survive arguments and disagreements. I mean, do you really want a friend who's going to agree with you, on everything, or not call you out when you're wrong? One of my great friends, Scott, in college, he actually sat me down and told me that I was being a real jerk. It's, no one wants to hear that you're being a jerk. But when he sat me down and he told me I was being a jerk, it was really hard to take. In fact, I didn't really believe him. I thought he's just a drama queen, and he's just blowing it out of proportion. But the more I thought about what he said and why he would say it, and asking myself some questions about what he would gain from bringing up that conversation with me, the more I realized how right he was, I was being a jerk. I was near graduation of college. I had worked really hard to get to that end. Just to graduate had been just just worked and took a lot of time and patience and dedication and effort. And I really felt entitled. And I had a really good looking girlfriend, and I had a car and a motorcycle, and I had all these things. Like all these things in my life were starting to come together, and I felt great about myself. And I was acting like a jerk. I mean, he called me out. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, man, that's a true friend who would say, you know what, John, if you keep heading down this road, you're going to become someone that you really don't want to be, and you need to be careful. And he had everything to lose and nothing to gain from that. But even though that was 30 years ago, I still remember that very vividly, and I think about it a lot, quite often.
That's as opposed to the if someone has like a man crush on you, right? That's someone that would, basically be like a yes man and say yes to everything you do, or agree with everything you do and agree with everything you say, every standpoint you have. And I'm sure you've had these sometimes at work, you'll meet these kind of people that, just like they want to be part of your world. So everything is, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. So friendship, the way I view friendship, it's really a contract. And it's not even a spoken contract. It's not written. There's nothing really. It's just a known entity, that a contract between at least two people, on terms that they would maybe even not even define. I mean, it's very loose. What is a friend? What does it mean? And I think finding a true friend, you find someone who you can relate to, that you almost, are the same people, but you're in different bodies. You think a lot alike, you have a lot of the same interests, likes and dislikes. You just, I don't know, they're people that I've had in my life that I knew very few people, but a few that I knew right from the very beginning that we would be good friends. And now decades have passed, and I still am very good friends with these guys. They're like brothers. It's funny how you know that. But then, as Tommy said, there are other people who are going to try to force themselves on you. And I have other stories about guys coming up to me and saying, "Oh, you're my best friend," and I had just met the guy like half an hour before, through another friend. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy doesn't know me. He's not my best friend.
Well, I used to run into that, especially like when I was in my 20s. I would be hanging out with someone, and we would meet someone at a club or something like that, some dude that, we picked up some girls with or something. And all of a sudden he wants to be like our best friend, and before you know it, then he's kind of like weaseling his way in, trying to split me and my other friend up. Not split us up, but just kind of like, trying to get in the way a lot, and it was just like this guy came out of the blue. And yeah. It's very, I don't know, it's off-putting.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it is. It's like a single white female, that movie where the girl just like wanted to assume someone else's identity.
On the Swift Kick in the Ass, we talk a lot about fear, and I don't think that we should be fearful of everyone, but I think that we do need to recognize that fear is a very useful tool that helps keep us alive. And if something is like, if this red light's going off or these bells are ringing and about a person that and something just doesn't feel right, you need to learn how to trust yourself, or at least question yourself.
When you were talking about dogs earlier, I think of my dog. And, my dog is like so loyal to me. He'll do anything. He'll follow me everywhere. And it's not just because I'm the owner. It's because, like I remember one time when he was young, my wife had given him a bath with some shampoo, and the shampoo got in his eyes. And all of a sudden his eyes are like all real red. So I made sure I washed them out real good. And ever since then, he became like a different dog. It's like taking a thorn out of a lion's paw. They became loyal to you. And he knows that when everything, he's had many things from a slashed, I think someone hit him with a chainsaw on his tail one time.
Aww.
And dog bites. I
His
mean,
name's
weird
Lucky?
stuff. But he always knows that I'll be there and take care of him. And also, it's like the dog and person relationship. They don't expect anything of you, and you don't really expect anything of them other than to be there for you. That's it. And it's kind of like a friend. I mean, I don't expect anything of John, other than, when I call me back sometime. But, I don't try to change his patterns if, things, go different, or we had times where we didn't talk for a long time. We still automatically connect as soon as we talk to each other. And I think it's that, I show appreciation for him. I respect him, and I trust John, and he trusts me. And I think that's a huge one, man. If you don't trust someone, it's very hard to have any kind of relationship with them.
Well, I think too, going back to a friendship being a contract between two people. I think the strength of the friendship is going to depend on how strong those individuals are on their own. Can they stand? Are you a friend to yourself? Can you tell yourself difficult messages? Can you tell yourself you're being a jerk? Can you ask yourself and figure out why you're thinking a certain way? Are you thinking about things logically? Are you thinking about things emotionally, or and letting emotions drive your decisions? Are you being influenced by this person? And if you are, why? Are you allowing yourself to be that way, or does that person perhaps have an agenda? Are they getting something out of that relationship?
Well, we talked about this on our last show. You want to be a healthy influence. There's very toxic there can be toxic friendships where they're bringing you down. I had a one person that I used to hang out with. It was a work relationship, and they were very toxic. They were racist. They'd make racist jokes all the time. They would constantly belittle other people. And, sometimes he was a very funny guy, so you laugh at his jokes, but after a while it started having like this dark cloud around it. And you're like, I think there's something more here, and it's, and it can rub off on you. If you have someone like that that's hanging out with you, man, you pick up their mannerisms, and it's just bad news. You got to avoid that time when you have to draw a line and say, you're not really a true friend, or you discuss it and say, hey, there's some issues I'm a little concerned about. But, sometimes it's hard to change someone that's in that toxic mindset.
Well, I think that, first of all, you can't change people. You can only change yourself.
Correct.
And what you think and what you do, you can't change other people. And that's where that strength that you were just talking about, Tom, is so critical to friendship, because you need to stand on your own. You need to be a friend to yourself, really, before you can be a friend with somebody else. And to the degree that you can be a friend to yourself, that's going to allow you to be a better friend to others. Like if you can be open and honest with yourself and accepting of yourself, you can also be open and honest and accepting of other people. This doesn't mean that you have to accept everything about people. We all have our flaws. None of us are perfect. But I think true friendship is recognizing these flaws and still loving or being a friend with that person regardless. Not just liking them for who they are. Like you said, Tom, earlier, we live in different states. I mean, you didn't say we live in different states. You said we don't keep in touch. We don't live next door to each other. We certainly don't see each other every day. We live 6 states apart. But we still have a good, strong friendship. And it does take work. It does take us picking up the phone. It does take emails. This show is a great strengthener of our friendship. I think, it's
it's definitely, I mean, this has brought us back closer because we had something in common to talk about again. Not that we don't have things in common, but, it gave us something to, when I would drive home from work, I had a long commute and I'd always call John every day. And it was like, hey, we got this new idea. for the show, and we want to do this, and we want to do this for the website, and this is what the logo is going to be. Everything from down to picking the name took a long time for us to figure out what we were going to do. But it was great because it's like we had this project that we were working on. It was like when we built the fort, John, when we were kids, or did something to the fort, or made something, painted garbage cans with Captain America shields. It's just something that we did together, and it was a project.
We had mutual interest. We were there voluntarily. It's funny because as I'm hearing myself talk about this, and I'm thinking about our gamification episodes and about aspects, making your life a game, and how you need to be a volunteer. In order for your life to become a game, you need voluntary participants. You need challenges. You need objectives. You need a way of measuring and keeping score to know if you're getting ahead. And same thing with friendship. You need to be able to stand on your own. You need to have mutual interests. You need to have trust. I think self-identity and self-awareness also helps you make for a better friend.
So now when we were 14 years old and we decided to go to the local sports store, and remember we bought those shorts, and they were like football shorts. The thing is that the way football pants lace up, they make your crotch look bigger. And as a young teenage boy, we realized that all the girls' eyes would go directly to these pants, so we'd wear these shorts. So yeah, it was probably weird. It's just like you see teenage girls, they'll dress like the same, and they'll have like the same outfits sometimes, or it's just they like that kind of stuff. So luckily, me and John don't wear those shorts anymore, and we wouldn't wear them at the same time if we did.
Yeah, and we
that's an awkward part of friendship.
Honestly, I don't see anything really awkward about those shorts. I mean, the dolphin shorts, like the running shorts.
Well, Mick Jagger used to wear them.
Mick Jagger used.
Yeah,
the football.
Man. The football short things. I've seen him on stage with them.
I think those will make a comeback.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's bring back the football shorts.
And if you think we should bring back the football shorts, you just write us.
Hey man,
Let us know.
At least it's not those little dolphin shorts, the ones that the runners would wear that were like real short shorts.
I think that's really bad, but I think there's probably one worse, and that's the cut off jean shorts.
Yeah,
especially if you're a guy. If you're Daisy Duke, then that's all right. That's pretty good. But the short.
It's funny. I was laughing with my daughter yesterday, telling her how, we were talking about my father, how my father would, he was like the typical, very strict, back from the 1950s era thinking. And like I come home with a pair of jeans that had holes in them, right? And I bought them like that. And he'd look at me and he'd be like, you bought those? Are you kidding me? People throw pants away like that. How much did you pay for those? And he would just make fun of you. I remember I bought a pair of Pumas sneakers when I was in high school, and it was like $70. And he wouldn't let me live that down because he couldn't believe I paid $70 for a pair of shoes just because they were trendy, or we went through the whole era in the 80s with the parachute pants. Yep. Or the Cavaricis and the pants that had like zippers.
Sergio Valentes.
Yeah, the Chess King was this clothing store that sold all this, I had a shirt from there that had a cobra on the front, and it had glitter. It was like this glitter cobra, and you thought you were a badass wearing it, but you probably just looked like a douche.
That's so funny. It brings back so many memories of muscle shirts and the Capizios, which are those really pointed leather shoes. Yeah, man. They call them fence climbers.
But hey, back in the day, man, that picked up the chicks.
Oh yeah, I mean I love those parachute pants, man. I had like one of every different color.
Fun times.
But, think about probably getting way off topic here, but think back about that time and about how Nikes and Reeboks were like really just starting. back when we were in middle school.
Well, that's what I was telling my daughter. I was like, used to go to Kmart, and you had Kmart specials, which were like the Bobo shoes, or you had Converse, and Converse were still like only like $10. They were not expensive shoes. It's not like they are now where it's popular, all the kids are wearing Converse. And I laugh because I was like, we used to wear those all the time. They're just basketball shoes. It was no big deal.
Yeah, with no support.
Yeah, there was nothing to them. And, there was back then, they didn't have colors. They had white and blue, I think, dark navy blue. That was the Converse.
Yeah. So, times have changed, but friends still make a huge difference in your life. And whether you were wearing, crazy fashion like we did back in high school with our parachute pants and our muscle shirts and our Capizios we had rock star hair. Well, you did.
Yeah, man.
Tommy had the golden mane of hair and the linen suits. I remember Tommy wearing a linen suit with the fedora hat. That was
yeah, I remember that. It was when we went to Disney World.
Was it?
Yeah. We went. Okay. I had that, and we went. We went with my mom and dad. We were going to go to the Smoky Mountains, and we got that car accident. Remember? The trailer flipped the Cadillac.
So I think it's probably. I guess we probably need to start wrapping this up. But friendship. I have another analogy, and I think it's great. Or I guess I already talked about it. I already did. The chili episode, the chili analogy. Friendship. Everyone thinks it's really great. But everyone has a different definition of what it is. And I think it's an important thing to think about. Friends are important. And it's good to understand it's good to know when you have a friend and when you don't. The time that you know somebody, I've known Tom a long time, almost all my life. And I recognize how uncommon that is. But I've had other friends who I knew for 20 and 30 years, and there came a time in that friendship when it was time to end it. One was with a friend of mine who was the best man at my wedding, who was a woman. She was only a friend. She was a great friend. And I wanted her to be my best man, and she did, but she's no longer a friend. I'm not going to tell you a long drawn out story for once, but we're no longer friends. And, I always thought I considered her to be like a sister, but there came a point in time where my eyes were opened. And not only were my eyes opened, but I finally allowed myself to realize the truth. There were certain things about the relationship that I knew, but I didn't want to admit to myself. And such as, I think friendship needs to be a two-way street. And it was a very one-sided relationship. We always had to go meet at her house. We always needed to do things that she wanted to do. It was really on her terms. And I don't need friends like that. I have plenty of good friends friendships that are a two-way street.
Right. It's a give and take, man.
Yeah. So, that was one of the toughest decisions I think I've ever made in my life, but I'm thankful for it. I have a few other examples too of friendships that, I said that was it. Toxic relationships. If you have a friend in your life who continuously brings you down, keeps getting you in trouble, and is taking you in a direction, pulling them in a direction that you don't necessarily want to go, you need to really think long and hard about that friendship and whether or not you choose to continue it. I remember when I broke off friendship with one of my friends from high school. I remember that instant when I was walking away and the smile on my face, grinning ear to ear. Walking away from that situation was something I'll always remember, because it was something that I really needed to do. and sticking up for myself and standing up and putting my foot down and telling them, you know, if you say a word, I'm going to punch you in the face. I didn't punch him in the face, but you know, just saying that made me feel good, and it gave me a lot of confidence and trust in myself, and I was being a friend to myself by doing that.
Well, you know, we might encourage our audience to, if they have someone that they haven't reached out to in quite a while, just because, you know, life happens, maybe take a chance and, you know, send someone a message on Facebook, or, you know, reach out somehow, or look them up and find them and say, hey, you know, how have you been? How are things going? And see if you can rekindle that friendship. Because, you know, I mean, you have time invested and things don't change. I mean, I met John when I was 4 years old, and yeah, we've changed as people, but we're still the same, if you know what I mean. It's this, you know, we're still the same guys, same kids, just in grown-up bodies. And I can pick up John, you know, there was times where I didn't talk to you, maybe over a year, maybe longer than that. Yep. And I'd call you and it would just be like, you know, like.
It was like yesterday.
Yeah, exactly, man. So reach out to someone that you've already established a good relationship with and see where they are and see if you can bring that friendship back together.
You know, I think this is great. You know, I think we can have a new program, and that's the Swift Kick in the Ass program. You know, you contact a person, a friend you haven't spoken to in a long time, and give them a good swift kick in the ass and say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" You know, get their attention. Say hello. And you know, I agree with what you said, Tom. It just takes that first effort to pick up the phone or to send an email and say, "How you doing?" That's all it takes. Hello. How are you? And open the door and just see what happens with it.
All right, man. Do you have any parting things so we can wrap this up? Parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, I was actually getting into my words, my pearls of wisdom there. I don't have a quote, but I want to tell you that I feel truly, truly blessed for the friends in my life. I not only have Tom, who I've known almost all my life, but I have a group of friends who I've known since college. So that's been over 30 years now where we've been together, and there's 6 of us, and we're like brothers. We get, you know, I just came off a cruise with them. We brought our wives. We brought, you know, it was just a huge gathering. And it's an amazing feeling to have friends like that. And when you have friends like that, you think, how come I have all these friends? And it seems like other people don't. And friendship is so difficult for some people. And I think that it all boils down to what you think of yourself and what you expect from other people. And that if you just want to be a person's friend because you like them, you think they're a great person, and you enjoy sharing time with them, then that's all you need. And it's great to search for people like that and spend time together and open yourself up to this beautiful world that becomes a lot more beautiful with friends and family to share it with. So I'll get off my soapbox, but
amen, brother.
Reach out to a friend who you haven't talked to in a long time. Just say, hey, what's going on? That's all it takes.
Sounds good to me, man. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Tom Stewart, joined with my buddy, John Curren. Check out our website, aswiftkickintheass.com. Sign up for our membership site, and you will get free access to all kinds of goodies like John's simple spending plan, get your life and finances together. And we also have some cool videos that will help you reach some goals. Take care, man. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Take care. Talk to you next time.